and welcome, dear viewers, to today's episode broadcasting live from the heart of Beirut, and I'm your host, Farah Hatwi. Politically, Israel and Lebanon have reached an agreement for a ceasefire. However, a closer examination of the situation on the ground reveals clear violations of this agreement, with the Israeli army conducting various strikes in multiple areas, not just along the border villages, but even further inland and also targeting civilians. Even the sound of the Israeli drones can once again be heard in the Lebanese airspace. In response to the situation, the U.S. military has appointed Major General Jasper Jeffers to oversee the implementation of the ceasefire brokered in Washington, which went into effect in the early hours of Wednesday morning. But the question remains whether he will be able to accurately report on Israelis' violation of Lebanon's sovereignty. This all unfolds alongside recent events in Syria, where armed groups have attacked Syrian soldiers and seized controls of several cities, including Aleppo. To discuss these issues and more, I'm joined here by Mr. Muhammad Abaid, a political analyst. Hello and welcome, Mr. Muhammad.
My pleasure.
It's nice having you. 5 days has gone by since the ceasefire agreement was enacted. Of course, we're speaking about the ceasefire agreement between Lebanon and Israel. And yet, Lebanese citizens, up till this moment, they are still confronting what they used to have in the past, continue to face random attacks extending beyond just the border villages, as I highlighted. Are we at war or at peace?
First of all, thank you for having me, and it's always my pleasure. I'd like to greet you and all the viewers. Well, this is quite a question, yes, but are we at peace or war? No, definitely we passed the period of war. The evidence to this is that as long as the Israeli is capable of achieving gains, as long as it believes, even with the passage of, let's say, a month, or 2 months or 3 months, he can achieve something, he would have gone more with the war. The fact that he accepted to have the mediation of the Americans, and I wanted to comment on this when you talked about the American officer.
General, yes.
Yes, who is going to be part of the committee or the commission that is supposed to monitor the arrangements, yes, because you cannot call this a ceasefire. You don't have two papers that were signed by both two parties. It was the thing that was accepted by both parties, basically Hezbollah and the Lebanese party, government, Speaker Berri, and everybody in this Lebanese state. They did not want anything other than Resolution 1701.
Okay.
That's why what was reached was sort of arrangements how to implement the 1701 resolution.
Yes, but as if, allow me here, Mr. Muhammad, but as if there was an entire draft, including several terms, modifications, and a 1701 resolution, a little bit of modifications on that was agreed by both sides. However, when you come to the implementation of that factor, there is no real mechanism of how it's supposed to be applied. There is no readiness from all sides. Neither the committee have been created. The Lebanese soldiers, they are not ready for that, even with the capacity, not even with the weapons and ammunitions, to be at the borders. They need around 15,000 at the borders, and we only have 7,000. So we're not ready for that implementation. As if the papers were here, we signed the papers, but when it comes to the application of the deal, it was difficult and complicated.
This adds to the notion I've just said.
Yes.
The Israeli could not take any more confrontations. The Israeli is the one that accepted to stop the war.
They're the ones that push for it?
Yes, but first, yeah, I'm sure that they were. Look, in the beginning, Hezbollah did not want to start the war. What Hezbollah was doing was a sort of support and sort of helping the Gazan with as much as it could. And it did a lot of sacrifices. It lost a lot of martyrs in order not to have the the confrontation spiral out into all of Lebanon.
Yes.
It was the Israeli about.
It was limited by the borders.
At that time, yes, in the beginning for about around a year.
Yes.
But it was the Israeli that opted to
develop,
the
escalate,
conflict spiral out into the whole of Lebanon, basically the areas in which you have people who are
as a collective punishment, as a collective punishment.
Lebanon, and this should be really noted.
Yes.
When you hear people from the opposition, those who oppose Hezbollah, they were not paying the price of anything.
Yes.
Their areas, and they themselves as officials were never assassinated. Their areas were not targeted. Their people or supporters were not harmed.
Yes, but we witnessed kind of bombardments every now and then in different areas outside the Hezbollah stronghold. Yes.
This is an area where
Hamra.
I don't like to talk sectarian
yes.
terms and so.
Yes.
But those were Shia areas.
Okay.
Like in the area in Beirut, it's called Basta, that was targeted. So they were aiming to pressure the environment of Hezbollah, the supporters of Hezbollah, in order to drive the party or push the party into accepting the Israeli conditions.
Okay, the Israeli conditions for a ceasefire.
Yes. When finally the Israelis and the Americans, and they're here, it's funny to talk about American mediation when you have the Americans supplying them with whatever they need in order to continue with the genocide and the massacres. So these two are one. So the American and the Israeli reached the conclusion that they are not going to get anywhere. They are only accumulating the losses. You know, the occupation entity had suffered a lot of losses, but they did not declare that. They did not allow any footage to come out. They did not allow any figures to come out. Now we are starting to see some figures about the billions of dollars in losses because of that confrontation. So when they could not take no more losses in the lives of their troops.
And the economy, as you highlighted, deteriorating economy.
You are not talking about
domestic pressure.
You are talking about different levels when it comes to economy. You know, the north is an area that is very important to Israeli tourism, I wanted to say.
Yes.
But the Israelis are always terrorists,
yes.
no problem. The tourism, you have also many factories there, including high-tech factories, including also arms factories and ammunition factories.
It was a very important, it's very important area.
You have
and Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah spoke about its own importance economically also.
And he talked about
the losses.
Factories and facilities that cost billions of dollars that could within half an hour.
Yes, but as you highlighted, Mr. Muhammad, we never knew about it because there was a complete, total Israeli media blackout, and we couldn't have access to it. But however, now leaks are coming out, and then we are seeing the price that they were paying, and then becoming to understand or having a wider vision of why this ceasefire, where they were pushing for a ceasefire at the first place.
So here we are now. Now, as for what is taking place right now, if the Israeli can get any gains, they would not say no, okay? Now they will try to have drones, for example, here and there. Last night we had drones in Beirut and over the suburbs and Mount Lebanon.
Yes.
So if they can get away with it, they'd be more than welcoming. But of course, here's the part of the Lebanese, how much politically they are going to stand up against this. Now, if this was not fruitful, if this did not get any results, then it is the resistance that is going to stop.
Yes, I want to speak about the plan that they're working upon Hezbollah. But let me just highlight, please, here, allow me, the latest Israeli violation. And it's very important to point that out to our viewers. Israeli forces carried out several air attacks on towns in southern Lebanon, according to the Lebanese National News Agency. An Israeli drone attacked the village of Rabbat Latin in southern Lebanon, killed 2 people and also injured 2 others on Saturday. Another attack also hit a car in the town of Majd al-Zoun in the Tyre city, injuring 3 people, including a child. Israeli warplanes also carried out 2 air attacks on the Tibani area and the town of Baysariye in the Saydoun district, injuring at least 1 person. The Israeli military also said that it had attacked a Hezbollah facility in Saydoun that housed rocket launchers and a vehicle in southern Lebanon loaded with rocket-propelled grenades, ammunition and military equipment, according to them. In your opinion, why did Hezbollah choose not to retaliate at the moment? And that's a very important point that we want to highlight. despite these violations that are obvious?
Look, the supporters of Hezbollah and basically all the Lebanese believe that Hezbollah can do whatever it wants, whenever it wants, and so. But Hezbollah uses all its capabilities with wisdom, with prudence.
According to legal rights, also according to legalized conditions.
Sometimes the difference between Hezbollah and the Israeli is that the Israelis do not see or try to foresee where their steps are going to lead them.
Okay.
And this is why you always find them in a quagmire. You always find them. Whereas Hezbollah, when it comes to Hezbollah, you see a lot of patience, but always you see good results in the end. Now, what is taking place now, I can recite to you, even if not the same, more violations were made by the Israelis following the 2006 1701.
Yes, the Lebanese government registered 40,000 violations after 2006 war. More number than that?
There was, for instance, a landing in Budai, in the Bekaa.
Yes, after the agreement. You're speaking immediately after the ceasefire implementation.
Look, I think about 40 days or something like
to
that.
regulate.
In order for things to settle down.
Okay.
Plus, please take into account that this is very important fact. The Israeli now is getting afraid because of these people who are storming into the areas, their own areas, the villages from which they were displaced.
What are they afraid of?
They are afraid for things to happen like in year 2000, when the people just stormed into their outposts and it just expelled them. You know, with the Israelis, they know that they can kill every human life is extremely important to us. They can kill 1, 2, but if they are going to perpetrate a massacre right now, they can expect a retaliation from Hezbollah.
Okay.
But at the same time, when they see all these people who are also going into these villages that the Israelis destroyed, with the illusion that, with the destruction of these houses, the people are not going to return because they cannot stay on land, and so this has all proven futile and not useful.
Okay, but Mr. Mohammed, another perspective argues that according to the deal, Israelis need 60 days to evacuate the area, and then following. Okay, but people are going back, and the evacuation technique did not take place yet.
I think it was a very positive sign.
Yes, explain to me why. Yes, but I mean that these breaches, they can be read in that way, but we already stated the lines, and you, despite the moral impression of it.
Or her own land, you cannot say, abide by any agreement. This is my land.
I want to return there.
And this is what is getting the Israeli more
nervous,
and what you say, not able to accept the facts, because they are almost begging their settlers to return to the north.
And they don't want.
And they are not. Whereas here, you see the people who have right in their own land, they are not occupying someone else.
And they know that their land is occupied.
Yes, they are storming into these areas. They are accepting some sacrifices there. The Israelis are shooting at them. The Israelis had gone even one step further and started bombarding those areas with shells, but still the people are still advancing. So all this is increasing the tension in which the Israeli is living, afraid and also
insecure, and afraid that maybe the same scenario that you highlighted that occurred in 2000 after 2006, after the ceasefire implementation, they're skeptical that it might be repeated now. So you're saying that after 60 days will pass by, then definitely we will see a halt for these attacks. Just similar to what happened in 2006?
I cannot be sure, because we've had that experience of over 30,000 violations.
40,000 violations, yes.
Almost.
Yes.
Between 30,000 and 40,000. So with the Israelis, you cannot be that sure. But see, this sort of agreement or arrangements to achieve the 1701, this is what could be reached in line with the balance of power on the ground.
Okay.
If Hezbollah had been weaker, and as some claim, some opposition or people who oppose Hezbollah claim that Hezbollah is no longer capable of doing anything Hezbollah lost its leaders, etc., etc. If the Israelis could impose better conditions, they would have.
Okay.
Even if they had extremely good conditions to Hezbollah, they would violate them if Hezbollah were weak. So this is the case. It is not whatever you have on paper or
Yes, but Benjamin Netanyahu was very clear in the latest interview when he highlighted that we did not stop this war. We are at a ceasefire, and anytime we feel that there is a violation, we will attack, and the war will be ignited again.
And then why did he stop it in the first place if he's so much enthusiastic as for the continuation of the war? He said within the same speech that we have to stop the war in order to revitalize our army. This is the acknowledgement that his army is right now weak. It needs some time to take a rest after 1 hour. You know, you read a lot of reports in Israeli press about the issues of the reserves refusing to join the army, about the Haredim, of course, in the first place, not the religious people, not accepting to join the party. You have a lot of things, for example, with the people, the troops, very much discontent with the way things are arranged in a war that they don't believe is going to get them anywhere, and the way the war is run by. You cannot call these people extremists. They are really criminals.
Okay, but if you read the steps, yes,
these people who were, even according to the law of the occupation state, they were in prison or about to be taken to prison, and suddenly they became ministers, Ben Gvir and Smotrich. They are criminals. So these are the officials that are running the lives of ordinary people who are taken out of their work environment and pushed into the army, the reserve forces, to fight a war that they do not believe is going to take them anywhere. Plus the fact that when it comes to Hezbollah, it is the recipe of extreme panic when it, to the Israeli soldiers, and they know it. And even before that, when they heard about the Radwan forces, and so the settlers were scared, and everybody. So this is the situation. Now, of course, you would not accept Benjamin Netanyahu to go say, okay, look, this is what we could get, and you have to accept it.
Yes.
And we are weak right now. Our army is weak and needs some rest. And our arms.
But if we want to analyze from overall view, Mr. Mohammed, the timing and the procedure of how the situation was going, if you want to observe it, Benjamin Netanyahu declared when he declared that his own acceptance for the ceasefire, he spoke about his own. He spoke about the reasons, and one of the reasons, as you highlighted, is that the soldiers need ammunition and need support, and they need a lot of support in the coming days, and then and they need some rest, exactly. But after that, we heard from the Israeli newspapers a lot of criticism and angry voices, domestic pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu, whether from the cabinet or from politicians or even from the right wing, pressuring him that it was a very wrong decision and why would you accept a ceasefire. And that's when the interview came in, Mr. Mohammed, and he declared in the interview, wait, this is not, we did not say that the war has stopped, it's just a ceasefire, and if any violation is to occur, we will go back and attack. Who was he trying to please here?
Look, I'm not that much interested as of who he was trying to please, as much as I'd like to underline the divisions within this society, within this community.
Yes.
You have completely
disunited
angles, and people who want to fight up till the last Israeli soldier, and others that say this war is
so was he trying to comfort that side, Mr. Mohammed?
Okay, so he gave a statement. Okay, I accepted the ceasefire. He is pleasing those who refuse the war. And with the second part, is that, we can start whenever we want. He's trying to please the other party. But don't take this into account. I mean, as for importance, as much as the divisions within the Israeli cabinet or society, if you may call it a society, within the occupation entity, there are a lot of divisions when it comes to these issues of left and right, with the issue of religious and secularists, and with issues of race. Sometimes the Ashkenazi and the Sephardim.
So these words and these speeches, they reflect the disunity. They reflect the disunity. It's embarrassed.
Of course. And even within this small part, as I explained,
because they don't try to show it on the media too.
They are trying to. He's trying to please both parties, and it's impossible.
Okay.
I mean, you cannot maintain the cake and eat it at the same time.
Yes.
You cannot please those who want to continue the war and those who want to stop
And
it at
away
the same
from
time.
away from politics and politicians and the Israeli cabinet, we're speaking also about the settlers in the north that were very angry too. That
And they are still refusing to
yes, they're
return.
refusing to return. And also there are news coming in that even the Israeli government is not paving the way for them to return, and that places a lot of questions on why would the Israeli government not encourage the Israeli settlers to go back to the north? Are they thinking of an escalation to come soon? These are also scenarios that are been applied
Yes,
if the news coming in from there is true.
I wouldn't say that it's 100% impossible
okay.
to have a renewed escalation, but I'd say it is very, very much unlikely, because if he knew that any one extra day could have got him any gains, Benjamin Netanyahu would not have stopped the war.
Yes.
And even
They
now,
only work under
and
pressure.
even now, if he thinks that the continuation of war for 2 or 3 days would get him somewhere, he'd do it.
Yes.
But most observers, and I say this also, this is all part of the psychological warfare, part of it some to please the Israeli, if you may call them population. So it's all within these ranks. But what has been written has been written. I mean, the agreement is there. The American, I think, General has arrived, and also the French. But I don't advise anyone to pin any hopes on any roles by these.
But the committee should be established.
Yes. It's going to be established, but it will only become a wailing wall for just, oh, look, like was the UN Security Council and the UN itself.
Yes.
Okay, today they made 10 violations. The other day they made 15 violations. And what did this help Lebanon?
Okay.
What help Lebanon is part of it, part of the
resilience.
Could get the force and the capabilities to deter the enemy from thinking of launching any violation. Now, some people may say, okay, but this has proven futile. I mean, with this experience,
yes,
and the Israelis did wage a war against Lebanon. Okay, but they paid the high price.
Yes.
And as we said earlier, yourself and me, that the figures are starting to show up. They're starting to surface.
And don't forget that the Israelis, they do a lot of investigations after the war, like Vinograd's investigation, and then we will have a lot of news coming in from there.
With those commissions, you don't expect to have everything said in public.
Sure.
They keep a lot within closed doors in order to see where they have problems. And so.
Speaking about the settlers in the north and ending that and going to another point, but here also that reminds us of the, it's kind of, it brings a lot of smiles and a lot of memories when Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah highlighted in one of his latest speeches before his assassination that people of the north will not go back to the north, and the settlers in the north will not go back to the north. Now the war is over. Almost a ceasefire is implemented, and still the people of the north, or the settlers in the north, did not return to the settlements. How strong and vital were these words back then, that they're being implemented even after a ceasefire is agreed upon?
Look, it is a little bit funny. These people are,
they believe Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah more than they used to believe their own people.
This person is
politicians.
so coward that he's afraid of his own shadow. Or sometimes you say they are too afraid to do anything. Today, there was a ballistic missile that was launched from Yemen to occupied Palestine. It landed somewhere in occupied Palestine, but the Israelis claim that they shot it before entering the so-called Israeli airspace. This is not the important part. The important part is that they had the sirens
working,
turning on,
yes,
and with the people just rushing to the shelters, you had 4 people wounded. I mean, these people have the potentials of destruction and defeat within themselves. I mean, you only need to do this to them, and they are going to be defeated. This is their people, and that's
the thing that made them angry. The Israeli politicians.
Yes. Every time they face any threat, they rush into the shelters in what you may call the stampede, if you know the meaning of this term, when the animals are very afraid and they just
run into the shelters.
Run away, even treading on each other.
Okay.
This is the case. Every time they are afraid, you have many people wounded because of the stampede.
Okay, but do you think that these latest violations of Lebanon's sovereignty and the attacks on Lebanon, even after the ceasefire is implemented, is a result of this scene that we're seeing? Lebanese citizens or the people of the resistance running back to their land, even though it's not safe or enough to be there, while on the other side we see Israeli settlers not accepting to even go there. Does that make them furious? Does this allowed or pushed the Israeli government to be furious? Because it's a scene that the whole entire universe saw it.
And part of the reactions that they are doing right now, as for bombarding some southern villages and trying to show some force with having drones all over Lebanon or whatever, all due to this fact that I once said when I was commenting on the October 7th,
yes,
the Al-Aqsa flood, it had the role of just as if you took someone and forced him to stand by opposite the mirror.
Yes.
This is what it did to the Israelis.
Okay, because they're not the people of the land.
It showed them, it showed them their weaknesses.
Okay.
In the past, they claimed that, oh, look, at the 1967 war, we defeated the 3 Arab armies in 6 days, and etc., etc. All this myth that was created due to the weakness of the Arab regimes.
Yes.
The Arab peoples were ready to fight, but there were a lot of conspiracies and plots in order to make the Israelis look like this, the invincible army, the invincible soldier that nobody can defeat. Now all these images were smashed in Al-Aqsa flood, before that in the year 2000, before that in the year 2006, and now in the year 2024. So you all that you are, very successfully doing as a resistance axis is in smashing this myth and telling them, okay, look at yourself, you are very weak, you have stampedes when you see any threats, and you tread on each other in order to get to the shelters. This is what you really are. So this is once again my example of dragging someone into the mirror. Okay, look at yourself, this is the real you, not the one you that you wanted me to believe that you were.
Okay, and then the decision came out by the International Criminal Court. The arrest warrants against Benjamin Netanyahu and his defense minister completed the picture that you were highlighting.
Yes, but plus, we can use this in order, when you take a decision, usually there are many factors that takes you there. You there. One of them, was the ICC.
Yes, because it distorted the image, and it distorted the image of the peacekeepers, of the ones that are calling for peace and attacking terrorist groups.
Look, the arrest warrant is very important, but it's sort of it is one of the manifestations of where the Israelis are now when it comes to public relations image, when it comes to how the world views them. Now, for example, 2 days ago, the Spanish government underlined the fact that we would not allow any ships that are taking weapons to Israel to pass through our ports.
Yes.
And this is quite important.
And this is a result of the arrest warrant?
No, not the arrest warrant. Due to all this genocide and all the war crimes that were perpetrated, Israel has become a real
But it's one of the highest Supreme Courts, Mr.
It's
Muhammad.
important. The arrest warrant is
because
extremely
it also applies to the...
But it is only the result. You cannot view the arrest warrant just as something coming from outer space.
Yes.
It
has ramifications.
It has many reasons for it to come into being, and also this genocide and all these massacres against the Palestinians, basically, and to a lesser degree against the Lebanese, made the Europeans, view this entity as a burden rather than as something that they claim to be the only democracy in the Middle East, or I don't know what.
Yes.
So now it has become clearer and clearer that this is the Israel when it comes to strength and weaknesses. And this is Israel when it comes to international law and criminal law, etc., etc. This
Yes.
is where it is.
But again, of course, here Israel and the United States wants to issue sanctions against the International Criminal Court.
yeah.
But again,
There were
to
even
explain-
also threats
Yes.
to arrest some of these judges.
Of judges.
And this is, I
Okay.
mean, this is
it's an entire breach, and for the first time, I do
Yeah,
believe
this is the
these
first
kind
time, yeah.
of breaches. However, if we want to understand how important Israel's image is in front of a lot of international communities, we see how they are seeking very hard to have a deal under the table with France to allow France or to push France in changing its own opinion when it comes to international criminal courts, the decision or even the application of the rule that is issued by ICC.
Well, there were some reports
Yes.
that Macron had to pay this price in order for the Israeli to accept him, the French,
ceasefire in
being
Lebanon.
part of this commission.
Do
that
you
is
see it
supposed
that
to
way?
form. Yes, but what help would it do? I mean, okay, he's going to not to be arrested in
France.
in France, but he will be arrested if
But
he
it's
landed
important
in
to him.
119 other countries.
What is important to Benjamin Netanyahu is not if he's being arrested or not. It's about his image in
No, no.
front
The
of
damage has
France
already
and in front
been
of
done.
NATO countries.
Yes, but the
That's
damage,
exactly
damage
what
has
they care.
already been. Even if they are doing this now, the French, they are only bringing back the story into the media. Maybe some people would have forgotten that there was a arrest warrant, etc., etc. Now they are bringing it back to the media. Okay, look what the France.
So
French
do you think
are doing
France
also.
tricked Israel?
No, not tricked, but the what I want to say is that the damage was so huge it cannot be hidden anymore.
Okay.
It can even
So that
with
will keep
some,
France in an
with
awkward
some little
position.
steps. Okay, it will expose the French that showing them that they are just using the so-called international law and criminal law, etc., in order just to help and assist their own political agendas. Meaning when it comes to Russia, when it comes to China or the Islamic Republic of Iran, they would be just talking about the killing maybe of a cat or the execution of a person, etc. But when it comes to 50,000 people being
Slaughtered.
massacred in Gaza and around 4,000 or 5,000 in Lebanon,
Yes.
this is nothing. This only exposes the hypocrisy of the West, that you do not believe in these values that you're talking about. You only believe in your political interests, and wherever your political interests are there, you are going to defend that country that helps you
But do you think that
achieve
this
them.
ceasefire is bound to the Israeli-France agreement? I mean, as if Israel is observing the France's decision when it comes to the ICC, and if the France did not do what the deal or do not apply the deal that the Israelis and the France agreed on, then this ceasefire will be breached. Do you agree with that?
No, the reasons.
Things in return.
Look, the reasons, once again, that made the Israeli accept the ceasefire, it was not Hezbollah that started the war. It
Yes.
was the Israeli that started the war.
Okay.
And Hezbollah has always been saying, okay, go back to 1701 and the
Okay.
war would stop. And the Israelis were refusing this. Now what happened about a week ago was that the Israeli reached the conclusion that if he continues the war, he's getting nowhere.
Okay.
It's just running within the same
wasting
yes,
time.
wasting
Okay.
time and effort. So now,
yes.
if any breaches are taken by the French or something, no, the whole thing has to do with the Israeli and
Okay.
its capability to achieve any objectives
Okay.
if he continued the war.
Sheikh Naim Qassem, Hezbollah Secretary General, in his latest speech, he had a different dimension to the entire situation. He actually took it to another level by actually not focusing on the attacks of Israeli or the Israeli violations after a ceasefire, rather speaking about the unity with the Lebanese army and its importance. And here, for example, I actually quote, "The coordination between the resistance and the Lebanese army will be at a high level to implement the commitments of the agreement." And here also he highlighted, and I quote, "We will work to strengthen Lebanon's defense capacities." Why is the stress? Why did the stress all go to the Lebanese army? How important it is to empower the Lebanese army at this critical timing exactly?
But it's only logical. I mean, when you cannot achieve the goal yourself, you'll try to employ, I'm not saying this is taking place with the agreement of the Lebanese army. No, this has been a dream a long time ago by the Israelis. And of course, as we said, Israelis and Americans are one when it comes to all these issues in the Middle East. It is the dream because the Israelis could not disarm Hezbollah. It is the dream of the Israelis to have an internal conflict between the resistance and the Lebanese army. That's why it has always been the case with any Hezbollah rhetoric or speech or whatever. You had this, what we call the golden equation of
the nation, the army, and the resistance. Okay. So definitely here, the Lebanese army or the resistance is aware of this game, and that's why now a lot of commentators highlighted that Hezbollah is leaving the space or leaving the war zone for the Lebanese army to check how the Lebanese army will actually function, while they are supporting them for sure, as Sheikh Naeem Qassem highlighted.
Look, sometimes it helps your
Due to
argument.
voices from Lebanon, Mr. Muhammad, that were criticizing for a very long time that Hezbollah should disarm and the Lebanese army should be at the borders.
You can't believe, by the way, these people of the opposition. Yesterday I had one of these, excuse me for the term, clowns, and he was saying that Hezbollah should take 4 or 5 years just set aside, and because the losses are
huge.
I mean, you feel these people are living in some outer planet or I don't know what. No, it is sometimes I was saying that it helps your argument that even if you are not doing this deliberately. But okay, now we saw in the final days of the confrontation, we saw the Israeli occupation forces targeting deliberately Lebanese army outposts.
Yes.
Okay, what was the reaction?
Several times before.
Now we see the Lebanese army that is part of the agreement or the understanding or whatever you may call it. And there are all these violations. So as if Hezbollah, is saying, I'm just watching, I'm just waiting for you to see what you are capable of doing.
Yes, and how
you
can
are
you
saying
defend this country?
That there shouldn't be any arms, any weaponry that is not official arms of the Lebanese state. Okay, here you have the official arms of the state, and let's see what they can do.
But the Lebanese army lacks technical support and needs
aggression.
Capacity building, and they need a lot
and
of
who's preventing
support.
them from getting the Americans and the Europeans?
Yes, but the European Union said that they will support.
Once again, I think Hezbollah is going just to sit there and watch and wait, and nothing is going to happen, by the way. Because it is not allowed to have any power to stand up against Israel. You may be allowed to be a police force as the Lebanese army. You may be allowed to be a police force against the Lebanese people, but to be a force to be able to defend its country against Israeli aggressions, this is out of the question. Okay? And mind my words, even arms of defense, not arms of attack, they would not give the Lebanese army such arms.
But maybe they will. Maybe they will change that argument.
We have been waiting for this for 40 years.
To support the argument that you're actually highlighting, Mr. Muhammad, which says that they want the Israeli, they want the Lebanese army to confront with the resistance. So therefore, empower the Lebanese army.
No, they are already empowering it with the weapons needed for this. So what prevents this is the fact that the Lebanese
there are certain
army
weapons to attack Hezbollah.
If there are going to be clashes between Hezbollah and
the resistance,
the Lebanese army, you don't need artillery, for example,
long-range
missiles or ballistic missiles.
So you're saying they gave them the enough weapons needed?
They already have, I think, and they supply them with this.
Of course, God forbid.
But then on, it's impossible for this to happen because part of the Lebanese army, even if you are going to calculate some people in the Lebanese army who are affiliated with those you may call them far right or whatever you want, who are against the resistance, but the majority of the Lebanese army are soldiers who support the resistance and who believe and who have been in close contact. You see a lot of generals who come out of the army, who retire. You see them now on TVs just defending the resistance because they are military people. They understand what's taking place.
And in return,
and they understand the importance of the role of resistance, especially when you have you have a rogue state that is being supported with all the weapons it needs, with all the technology it needs,
Yes.
in order to have conflict with these people.
Okay, and in
Lebanese
return,
people,
that's why Sheikh Naim Qasim stressed on the coordination and the
as if
cooperation.
telling them, don't dream about this, don't even dream about it.
Exactly, exposing the plan previously. That I know what the plan is, and I'm actually.
I can give you one more important fact that is even funny. Hezbollah MP was saying this statement, and the camera was taking behind him one of the Lebanese forces MPs. I think his name is Ghayas Yazbek.
Okay.
And when he said this word of Lebanese union or equation of army, nation, and resistance, and this MP did this on his face.
He slapped his face.
Yeah, I mean,
yes, he couldn't
these people
believe
are
it.
Funny. No, they are still dreaming.
Yes.
They are, and they know that they are not going to be able to achieve anything, but still
because both
they
sides
are being
aware.
ordered and instructed, but what we call their masters. Unfortunately, I'm using this term.
Yes.
It is the Americans who tell them, say this or don't say that, and also some Gulf countries have some influence when it comes to these MPs and these forces in Lebanon. They tell them, do this and don't do that.
Okay, let's speak about with the few minutes remaining here. Allow me, Mr. Muhammad, about the Jasper Jeffers, the U.S. Army General that's going to monitor the ceasefire in Lebanon alongside with Amos Hochstein and monitoring the mechanism. That's the very important factor of the cessation of hostilities. Do you see any? Are you optimistic about this? Are you optimistic about this committee? Because some are saying that, okay, let someone at least come to this land and come to this territory and see. Look at the violations. Where is the ceasefire application? We want witnesses on the ground. And do you think this committee will act as a vivid and genuine witness on these attacks and these violations?
Look, if the Americans and the NATO and all these countries that are supporting Israel with all the arms it needs to commit more and more genocide and massacres, if they had good intentions, I think they would have included some parties that you may call them, for example, unbiased.
Yes.
For example, let's say some South Asian countries. I'm not going to tell you China or Russia or whatever, but there are some countries that you can say that, for example, some Norwegian, Norway, let's say Sweden, although some of these countries sometimes take different stances, but okay. For them to restrict the issue of this commission of monitoring the violations and so with only the Americans and the French is sort of a joke, especially to Hezbollah.
You don't trust the France.
Hezbollah
You don't
and the
trust
Lebanese
France,
people.
Mr. Muhammad. They showed a little bit of goodwill towards the Lebanese government
they had
and the
some
Lebanese
good
people.
statements when it comes to when it came to the Israeli genocide in Gaza.
Okay.
A lot of statements, a lot of condemnation, and even the British who created this monstrous project here in our region, even the British were criticizing this. Now they sell us statements as much as you want, but we want actions, we want deeds. Have any of them, for example, stopped, as these Spaniards did, try to stop the ammunition and arms from getting to the Israelis to commit more and more genocide? Okay, were there any deeds? Okay, statements and words are not going to do anything to the children and women of Gaza who are being slaughtered, unfortunately. So therefore, no, you only rely on Allah, of course, in the first and foremost place, but you also have to rely on your force, how much capabilities you have to make the Israelis think twice before launching any new aggression against Lebanon.
Okay, let's speak a little bit about Syria. How do you read the timing of this escalation that took place in Syria and a sudden escalation? Many commentators highlighted that these escalations came after Benjamin Netanyahu made it very clear and threatened Bashar Assad. And then after 3 days from that, we've seen what we've seen in Aleppo, and how the armed groups are actually taking control of huge.
Yes. Well, first you have
lands.
to agree on some basic facts. Okay, such militias, can they be live without the support of anyone else, meaning any other countries? These opposition groups, and even the extremist one of them that the Americans and others label as terrorists,
Yes.
like Nusra that changed its name and became the Jabhat Tahrir al-Sham or I don't know what. Now everything is passing from other countries, and everything is passing through Turkey. These are facts. I mean, it's not coming from other planets,
Okay.
of course. The only border there is that of Turkey. So this has been agreed or endorsed by Turkey, and also been instructed by the Americans. And this American denial that we have nothing to do with that only serves as assertion of
But
the
it is
point.
said that they've been training for 6 months now,
Yeah,
and
and
the pace of control
and look at
and
the
the pace of
coincidence.
entrance to
And look
Aleppo
at the
is
coincidence.
huge, and it's shocking at the same point. And because they're also said that they are equipped with sophisticated weapons and new range missiles and a lot of rockets. Okay, who is doing all this?
Yeah, I was telling you. So we have these Daesh, Nusra, and everybody. They Trump,
came back stronger.
Trump a lot of times re-quoted the fact that Hillary Clinton said earlier that we created ISIS.
Yes.
We were the ones who created ISIS.
Okay.
And as I said, I mean, let's not try to fool one another. I mean, where is all these tanks? And now I saw some footage today. They had tanks and I don't know what. Where are they coming? I mean, from outer space or from Turkey?
Okay.
So
Turkey is facilitating the way.
Of course,
for
I
that.
mean, there is no other way for this.
Okay, how will, in the few minutes remaining, how will this dilemma and this escalation inside Syria affect Lebanon that is dealing with a fragile ceasefire?
Look, what I was trying to say also about when I said about a coincidence, I mean, you cannot separate all the things that
All
are
the
here in our
factors.
region. Okay, you have one axis of resistance, and you have another axis of evil, headed by the United States, Israel, and any country that may support them. So these are facts. The minute they stopped here because they could not achieve any goals, they tried to think of any other ways to harm the resistance in Lebanon, tried to harm also the Axis, and they thought that Syria would be a weaker circle or weaker wing in this Axis. That's why the attack
So
came
they picked up the
one
right timing.
statement. I mean, one day after Benjamin Netanyahu, the war criminal, said that, okay, tell Assad you are playing with fire.
Yes.
What did he mean by that? He meant that you should stop allowing
Otherwise, we will
the resistance to
ignite
get...
the Takfiri groups to
Of course,
escalate.
yes.
And
But inshallah, as all their previous efforts failed, I'm sure inshallah this new effort will
why?
fail as well.
Because Russia and the resistance axis will help Bashar Assad to
Look,
overcome this scenario.
at sometimes maybe,
Are they ready for that? Can they do that?
Sometimes maybe some people were maybe fooled by some claims made by these terrorist groups in the past. I mean, after the year 2011.
Yes.
But after they saw them and the way they rule the areas they were controlling, I don't think they have any possibility to have any people supporting
Okay,
them.
Mr. Muhammad Abeid, our time is up. Thank you very much
Always
for
my
this
pleasure.
insightful
Always my pleasure.
analysis. Thank you for joining us. Dear viewers, we will be here tomorrow at the same time with more political updates. Until then, stay tuned.